Hey there, I'm Mr. Terry, a high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video. All right, if you know the video I'm going to be checking out right now, like me, when you saw the original video's thumbnail pop up in your feed, you were probably like, yes, Oversimplified's up. However, it's not oversimplified, but it looks like this is a channel that's kind of copying their format, at least from what I can tell from the title and their thumbnail. And you can tell with this that so many people want to see Oversimplified that if they are taking too long to put up an episode, people just start making their own. Well, anyway, this is from a new channel. It's called Things I Care About. And the time that I am doing this recording, there's only 5,000 subs because it looks like this is only their second video, but it's blown up. In the last week, it's got 250,000 views. And the video title caught my eye because it's something I'd be interested in learning more about, which is Hitler and Argentina. Now, I know about the kind of thing that happened with as World War II was ending, a lot of Nazi leaders ended up going to South America. But the idea of Hitler going there, I know has always kind of been much more fringe, but we'll see what the video's got. And as always, I'll try to chime in with what I know about it. All right, the original video link is going to be down below. So if you like this video with this new channel, let's make sure to support it, give the view, like, subscribe over there, because we always want new content creators. All right, let's get started. All right, here we go. Hitler in Argentina, oversimplified, inspired. All right, what do we got?
Oh, Argentina, home of Lionel Messi.
Messi.
Known for its friendly people.
We just signed to play soccer in the United States.
Where you dance tango with passion by night and gorge under the warm sun by day and...
Is that Hitler?
Wait a minute. Is that Hitler? Oh my god, that's Hitler. What is he doing in Argentina?
That said Argentine... Spanish for dummies, castellano. But yeah, Argentine, they speak a little bit of their Spanish a little different, especially because of the heavy Italian influence in Argentina.
Oh my god, that's Hitler. What is he doing in Argentina?
Messy. We'll see how he does in the US. Probably won't be here very long though.
It is April 30th, 1945, and the Allies are collapsing on Berlin. In his bunker, Hitler realized that all hope was lost and decided to end it all.
Shoots, he's with Ava Braun, his, just married wife. They both take cyanide pills. It kills her. And then apparently it didn't kill him, but he did end up shooting himself. I don't know what happened, if he didn't want to wait for the poison, whatever.
Or did he? How do we actually know that he did? After all, no one saw his body, and even Stalin
said it was cremated.
That he had escaped, possibly to Spain or Argentina. And in the following years, the FBI compiled many reports that spotted Hitler in Argentina, even acquiring a handwritten letter signed by the German Führer.
Dear fellow racists, I am well, hiding in Argentina. I'll be back. XOXO Hitler. How do you say Untermenschen in Spanish? So yeah, a lot of them went through Spain. Spain was kind of a semi-ally of the Germans, and that's how some of them ended up getting off the continent. Some of the Nazi leaders. The whole didn't find him thing. It was said that Hitler requested to be cremated and put out in the kind of garden area around the Führer bunker, so there wouldn't have been a body anyways. But the Soviets, they trusted the story, and you'd think they would be maybe the most I don't know, like suspicious about it with Hitler, but yeah.
On top of all that, the skull that Soviets had said belonged to Hitler was analyzed by scientists in 2009 and determined to have belonged to a woman, not Hitler. All I have mentioned is...
And if it was cremated, you wouldn't have found that anyways.
What happened? Could Hitler have escaped? Let us look at the evidence a little closer.
All right.
When
the
Soviets took over Berlin, they were more concerned with securing their city and celebrating their victory than carefully preserving the bunker as a crime scene. An unknown number of people, from soldiers to politicians to journalists, had access to the bunker and smuggled articles out as souvenirs. So much was scavenged that by the time Western investigators arrived, the bunker had been looted to the extent that even the fabrics from the furniture had been torn off and stolen, making a thorough crime scene analysis impossible.
I mean, you could tell people understood that, people that fought the war knew how significant this war was. So yeah, taking out stuff. The Nazis, of course, were notorious for looting places that they took over. But there's a lot of Americans that fought in World War II that took, Nazi stuff. all over the place. And of course, it's probably very valuable in the black market, but it's also a memento from a very important part of your life if you fought in that war.
While it is true that the skull was not actually Hitler's, that says more about Soviet crime scene negligence than anything else. It is likely that the Soviet coroners made a mistake, that they were too afraid to report to Stalin. Hey, Ivan?
That's fair.
Yes? I think we made a mistake. What? What do you mean? You know the skull we said was Hitler's? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's actually Hitler. Are you
It's
sure?
the oversimplified background music
100%. Should we tell Stalin? Yeah, I know he can be tough, but I'm sure he will value our honesty and integrity. Hello, my dear loyal scientists. Did you analyze Hitler's skull yet? Are you certain it's him? Well, actually, we want to talk to you about that, you kind comrade.
That's American capitalism.
Wait
And drink
a
that?
minute. Is this mochaccino? I asked for a cappuccino. To the gulag! So, you want to tell me something about Hitler's skull? That's Hitler. Yep, totally. That's him. Yep, that's Hitler. However, the skull will...
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, guys like Hitler and Stalin surround themselves with yes men. To them, loyalty is the more important thing than anything else. So, those people were always given in bad information. And then, because of their narcissism too, though, if somebody does say something that maybe they don't agree with, even if it's true, you know, that it can get them in trouble and or just ignored. You know, Hitler was notorious for that, from, you know, hearing military advice again from people and kind of turning that down. I mean, look at what Stalin did. Stalin purged, basically had Hitler in prison, basically half of his military leadership. So yeah, those guys don't do well with others.
Was not the only bone fragment found by the Soviets. What conspiracy theorists tend to forget is that they found a much more damning piece of evidence. A bone fragment from Hitler's jaw, which they took to his official dentist, who positively ID'd it. In later years, it was further confirmed by comparing it with an X-ray image of Hitler's jaw taken in 1944. Well, what about Stalin's claims? If the Soviet knew that Hitler was dead, why did Stalin claim that he had escaped? It turns out that this was a political strategy. By claiming that Hitler was alive, Stalin could strengthen his claims to territory in Germany by claiming that it would be safer for the Soviets to remain in the disputed areas.
Well, okay, I'm going to let him finish.
Also undermined his political opponents, such as Zhukov, who had claimed that Hitler was dead. Well, but Hitler was spotted in Argentina, right? That is true. Many claim to have spotted Hitler in Argentina.
Okay, before they move on, looks like they were going to touch on it. But I don't know. I mean, Stalin, it would have been really bad if he just took claim over, you know, Germany, because you already had agreements by the British and the Americans that they were going to divide up Germany. Even Berlin itself was going to be divided by the Allied powers. So right away, that would have, I mean, for maybe in Hitler's mind, or not Hitler, Stalin's mind, you know, he would try to use that as a justification for staying there. And because, I mean, they were still in the process of taking over Eastern Europe, and they hold on to it through satellite states and stuff. But yeah, that would have been very bad in the PR department for the Allies. But I mean, we also know, though, that, you know, Stalin didn't really care about those agreements immediately after the war was over, because he was supposed to vacate all those states that they had invaded. And of course, that doesn't happen.
And it is a famous destination due to the fact that lower-ranking Nazi officers did escape there.
Yep.
But that was not the only place Hitler was spotted. People reported seeing Hitler in Denmark, in several cities across Germany, in New York,
I mean, he's not
in
that
LA, in New
different
Orleans,
looking, you
in
know what I
St.
mean?
Louis, in Washington, D.C., as well as many other American cities, and also in Colombia, Brazil, Uruguay, Ireland, in a Spanish monastery, in a Tibetan monastery, and even in Egypt after having allegedly converted to Islam. Let's see the case of an FBI investigation that interviewed a woman who claimed to have spotted Hitler on a train. Hello, FBI? Yes, ma'am. How can we help you? I think I just saw him. Him? Him? Him who? He who shall not be named. Voldemort. Did you just see Voldemort? This is very serious, ma'am. It's the third time. No. Hitler. I saw Hitler. Hitler? Yes. This Hitler? Yes.
How do you know?
Well, he didn't look exactly like that, but I know it was him. Well, how do you know that, ma'am? Because he was speaking German.
Yeah, everyone speaking German is...
And keep in mind that recognizing Hitler's face in a time without internet is hard. I have been showing you an image of Hitler for a while now, but that is not actually Hitler. That is a lookalike. This is the real Hitler. Except that this is not Hitler either. That is a lookalike too. This is the real
You know, that
Hitler.
does look more like his childhood pictures. Which I'll show you. I was going to pull up something if they finish this FBI clip. I'll show you in a second. Maybe I'll bring this up too. So that makes sense though. This, if you look at his childhood, this is very accurate.
Or is it? I hope this illustrates just how unreliable testimonies can be.
They probably both
even
were, but
when well intended. But in reality, claims were often questionable at the very least. Journalists and writers.
Okay, I'm going to pull something. Oh no. I got to get back. Won't take me long.
Hope this illustrates just
I do want to pull up something. I'm going to pull it off to the side.
how unreliable
show you
testimonies can be, even when well intended. But in reality, claims were often questionable at the very least. Journalists and writers loved writing about Hitler's escape because it sparked the public's interest and sold publications. Politicians in Argentina used the opportunity to smear the sitting President Perón by linking him to Nazis. And sometimes the claims were simply the product of individuals with troubled minds, as was the case of the supposed Hitler letter, which was determined by FBI investigators to be a forgery by an 80-year-old man with dementia. Although conspiracy theories were plentiful, reality was that every claim that the American, British, or Israeli intelligence agencies investigated ended up being fake.
Fake news!
Now you might be wondering, well, if they knew he was dead, why did the agencies investigate Hitler's death at all? Well, there were several reasons. Often, claims about Hitler's whereabouts actually led to Nazi officers that did escape that people just confused with Hitler. The FBI was also struggling to maintain international relevance. The CIA had just been created and was overtaking many of the roles that the FBI used to have. For that reason, the FBI director saw in the Hitler investigation a way to show the importance of his agency.
Makes sense. So I mean, immediately it was such a show-off contest for, you know, intelligence agencies, and you just see this blow up in the Cold War when you get like KGB versus CIA. Okay, so here's what I wanted to show you real quick. So right here, this was the child photo, and it does have more of like a rounder head, and I feel like that fits pretty well. If it was true with the images they were showing, if one was true and one was not. Either way, the one I really wanted to show you guys, if you have not seen this though, is this. If you haven't seen this, zoom it in. Do this. This should be. See? Anyway, I love showing this in my class because, you know, I bring up the conspiracies when we're teaching. This right here is this montage of the FBI saying, hey, if Hitler had in fact escaped, here are some ways that he might be disguising himself. And I love these. In my class, we'll like talk. Oh, there's one that's different. The ones I've done in my class. Anyway, so it's like, okay, like here's like, you know, regular German Hitler, and then you have like Mussolini Hitler. You got the balding. We were saying in class, this is like British Hitler. He was going to go to Britain. This has got to be bottom left, Russian Hitler. And then French Hitler. And this one's duplicated, but the other one was a clean-shaven, but he had hair Hitler, the one that I have. I don't know if these look like the same one, which were in my class, we said it was American Hitler. So anyway, but yeah, they literally, you know, were like not just saying that it was a possibility, but like, hey, just look around. And you would think when like they show with that lady there that authorities probably got tips all the time that's like, Hitler's here. He's here. I found him. And just some guy with that they may not even heard him speak. Maybe he had an accent, but be like, he's Hitler, and probably gets apprehended. All right, anyway.
Maybe he didn't escape, but how can we know for sure? Let's review the evidence. Starting May 1945, British officials began collecting evidence relating
Us
to
Playboy.
Hitler's end. In charge of the investigation was a man called Hugh Trevor Roper. Trevor Roper reviewed interrogations conducted by British agents to captured bunker survivors and attempted to reconstruct what truly happened. One of the interrogations was to a man called Hermann Karnau, a guard on duty that was stationed outside the bunker at the time of Hitler's cremation. I was ordered by an SS officer to leave the vicinity of the Reichs-Chancellery for a time, and did so. When I returned to the garden,
There's a story I
saw
don't
the
know.
bodies of Hitler and Eva on fire 2 meters from the emergency exit.
Okay, am I just tripping about the cremation thing, that was the prevailing story? Am I tripping about that? Because they haven't mentioned that. Let me know down below.
He was interrogated several times and cross-examined carefully until his interrogators were satisfied that he was speaking the truth. He even drew an image of the location where he claimed Hitler and Eva were buried. Kana was reinterrogated in September and retold the story almost identically. His testimony was supported by the interrogation of another Reich Chancellery guard, Hilko Poppen.
Well, not many people would have, if there was a reincarnation and all that stuff, not a lot of people would have been around to see that. Remember, a lot of the high-ranking officials killed themselves too, like Goering, killing himself and their family. They killed their whole family of their children. Awful. But yeah, there wouldn't have been a lot of people around to see that. I mean, these was the final days. There really wasn't much left. And just knowing Hitler, you'd think, like, you know, if those other guys kind of they killed themselves to avoid capture, then, you know, Hitler definitely would have. Again, unless he takes some kind of coward's way out, because he never reemerged. If that was the case, like, I'm over here in Argentina now. Me and Perón are going to start our new fascist regime over here.
1945, that Hitler was dead and that he and Eva lay in the garden and burned. He also claimed that Hitler was
So I thought it was
buried
cremation,
in a bomb crater in the
though,
garden,
you know?
which he drew on a diagram closely matching
supposed
the
to
one
be
drawn
scattered the
earlier by
ashes.
Karnau. Poppen too was reinterrogated months
Oh,
later
Goebbels.
and repeated this story consistently. His interrogator, Captain Ingram, considered that he had given the information to the best of his ability, and that, as far as he could tell, the statements were true. A third interrogee was called Kempka, Hitler's chauffeur, who claimed that Otto Günsche, Hitler's bodyguard, telephoned him on April 30th.
Probably still
requested
work
that
too. They were
200
indestructible.
liters, or, if you are a freedom-loving American patriot, 53 gallons of petrol be sent to the Führer's bunker. Kempka complied and later made his way over to the Führer bunker, where Günsche told him that Hitler was dead. Kempka then saw Hitler and Eva's bodies being carried out of Hitler's room and even helped carry them into the garden along with Günsche and Linge. They poured petrol over the bodies and burned them before returning inside due to heavy Russian artillery fire.
Okay, so I mean that kind of fits the cremation story, because I mean I don't know if they had an actual like cremation system set up in the Führer bunker, but I guess in a way it's kind of a way of cremation. You're not going to get the results that you would with, you know, how people are cremated today, but I guess, you know, that seems plausible comparing with this, at least the story I've heard.
Another guard, Mansfeld, stated that he saw through an observation slit in the tower a huge column of black smoke. Minutes later, when the smoke had partially cleared, he could see 2 burning bodies about 2 meters to the left of the emergency exit. He later investigated the corpses and recognized Eva. The other one, however, was burnt beyond recognition. He entered the guard's room and heard SS.
Wonder how this supports the idea that he got out, though.
3 men to bury the bodies. The next time Mansfeld was ordered to guard the emergency exit, the bodies were nowhere to be seen, but he noticed that a shell crater 4 to 5 meters in front of the emergency exit door had been partially covered. He suspected that what was left of Hitler and his wife lay within. Mansfeld was cross-examined 3 times until his interrogators were satisfied that he was telling the truth. Each of these witnesses drew maps of the situation, and both their accounts as well as drawings remain consistent with one another. Could they all have been lying?
So is that like showing the plots for... I've seen this a couple times now.
Drew maps
like Goebbels and the others that
and both their
committed suicide?
as well as drawings remain
just their offices. Could just be their offices, whatever.
consistent with one another. Could they all have been lying? In principle, sure.
What happened to
people?
What's the story behind Goebbels? What happened to his body?
Interrogators and remain consistent in time as well as with each other is very unlikely. But there is one final element to consider, which is a very dark topic. If discussions of self-harm are triggering to you, skip ahead to the timestamp down below.
Hope you heard that.
Truth is, Nazism was an incredibly nihilistic ideology. Their war project was not one to be attempted again at a later date. It was victory or death. It was not only Hitler who decided to end his own life.
Right.
All of Germany was overtaken by a wave of mass suicide as the war came to an end, and Nazis wished to escape the humiliation and punishment that would come with defeat.
Well, and a lot of, at that time too, it's like, Hitler was such a polarizing figure. Yeah, there were people that were devastated with the loss, but also remember in that, especially in that last year in 1945, he was becoming very unpopular because the war had really come into the German backyard. And with, the public obviously seeing this was the beginning of the end, didn't like that Nazi leadership was continuing to believe that they could win this war when, all the faith in that was gone.
Hitler knew what had happened to Mussolini's body in Italy and wished to avoid the same fate.
Mussolini was ends up being captured and then executed kind of in the public, hung in the streets of Rome earlier that same month. That month is crazy. April 1945. Mussolini dies, from his execution. But again, publicly, humiliating for that. FDR dies from his health complication. And Hitler died. All three of those guys in the same month.
He was documented to have expressed fear of being paraded in Moscow inside a monkey cage, which would further have inspired him to end his life. Another important factor was his wife, Eva Braun. British intelligence speculated that the suggestion probably came from her. She had always wished for the glory of dying with Hitler and had repeatedly used her influence to persuade him to stay and die.
Probably so brainwashed.
Those closest to Hitler, such as Joseph Goebbels, also chose to commit suicide, inspired and encouraged by the knowledge that their leader had also done so. In fact, Goebbels' wife Magda begged Hitler not to kill himself, for she knew that if he did, she would have to kill her own children, her husband, and herself, for she did not want to live in a world without Nazism and her Führer.
So we know that story about, I mean, I've seen Downfall and all that, and that scene is sad. The one where they kill all their children. They poison all of them. For what they said, they didn't want them and their family to go down like that. So Goebbels and the whole family, they kill all their little children.
Soviets discovered the bodies of the Goebbels marriage and their 6 children dead from cyanide poisoning inside the bunker.
That was sickening.
It is inconceivable that Goebbels would have done this if she believed that Hitler was still alive. There is one final thing to consider. Hitler was the world's most hated man, and even though lower-ranking Nazi officers were welcomed into the US as part of Operation Paperclip, the same was not true
got a lot of the
for
Germans
the man
out.
Responsible for so much death and destruction.
A lot of leading Germans get taken out of Germany. And famously, a lot of some of those Germans that joined like the predecessor to NASA, right? Werner von Braun and stuff like that, because there were some brilliant German scientists.
The intelligence agencies would not have allowed a threat as powerful as Hitler to remain in hiding. The Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, was especially concerned with hunting down Nazis to make them pay for their crimes.
Boy, did they do that. I've heard those stories, of the Israeli intelligence agencies carrying out assassinations to people that have harmed Israelis. There's the Olympic athletes, where those terrorists had killed some of them, and then they spent years tracking all those guys down.
Against their people, and it is unthinkable that they would have allowed Hitler
Munich
to escape.
games?
After all, if even your grandma heard about Hitler fleeing to Argentina, do you really believe that the Mossad wouldn't have heard the rumor too?
Mossad's the
There
group.
are some crucial aspects about Hitler's death.
Very successful military or intelligence agency.
And unfortunately, it is very likely that we will never know the answer to that. However, one thing is certain. Adolf Hitler died by suicide in his bunker on April 30th, 1945.
All right, final thoughts. Don't go anywhere. All right, so it looks like our author here does not buy the Hitler got out theory there. I mean, unless I hear some better evidence, I'm not even close to being convinced of it. I don't know if you are and some other evidence that's out there that's stronger than you know, what the story has been in those investigations, I mean, let us know. You can put it down in the comments and can talk about that. But again, we do know that plenty of leaders went over to South America and kind of lived the rest of their lives that way. But yeah, not really buying it myself, but always open to new evidence, I guess. So, all right. Well, anyway, so this was this person's second video. Their first one, at the end of the video, if you saw it, obviously go to the channel link down below or the video link. You can see they have another one. Looks like they have a Country Balls episode. I'm looking at a thumb right now. It says how the U.S. brought freedom to Guatemala. Ooh, that's gonna be an interesting one because that took a military coup. So anyway, but yeah, if you like this and you're still with me here, obviously you like the original video, check out the original link. Let's let this new channel get going, and hopefully with this kind of buzz and stuff about Oversimplified, hopefully we can get that next Oversimplified episode out, and I'll be covering that as well. All right, with that, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.